Is MOTS-c FDA approved? That's a great question because in April of 2026, everything changed. One of the most exciting longevity molecules on the planet just had its FDA regulatory status almost change. It was in category 1, and then about a year and a half ago, it got put into category 2, which is where the FDA asked compounding pharmacies not to make this beautiful molecule. And this is a big announcement that I'm really excited to talk about. So technically, it's not FDA approved, but moving it to category 1 does put it in the status of generally recognized as safe, and it gives the green light for compounding pharmacies to make this, which is pulling people out of that research use only world, using gray market, Chinese knockoff peptides, and giving them access to 503A licensed pharmacies through prescribing providers. So I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. We have peptide protocols that we've been building for over a decade, and MOTS-c has been one of the most exciting that we've used. And I'm going to give you my honest, hopefully accurate breakdown of MOTS-c's regulatory status, and hopefully it's going to give you some ideas that's not hype, not fear, just facts, and gives you a clinical context of how to make sense of these. There's 3 categories the FDA has, but MOTS-c was previously listed on category 2, which is a restricted compounding list. That meant that compounding pharmacies technically couldn't make it. Technically. There's also some legal arguments, and RFK was very clear in stating this, that maybe it was misclassified illegally. And so in April 2026, the FDA looked at these peptides, and MOTS-c was on that list, and they said, hey, we're going to reconsider that restriction and consider moving it to a category 1. And what that means is going to be lifted from this restricted list, and that could open the door for these licensed compounding pharmacies who are there for a reason. These 503A compounding pharmacies, they can optimize your personalization when it comes to medicine. It's one of the things medical providers have used for years. It's the first form of compounding medicines, but with Big Pharma, they've come in and try to gobble up anything in the pharmaceutical world. So what does this mean? Well, the problem is when patients come into the office, or you ask me on the YouTube comments, what about MOTS-c? They've done their research. They've read about these mitochondrial mechanisms. They understand the AMPK activation. They've seen the studies on glucose control and cardiac health. They're excited. They want to use it alongside with like a GLP-1, like tirzepatide or retatrutide. And then you Google, is MOTS-c FDA approved? Or you ask your AI, and you go into this rabbit hole of really confusing, contradictory, and sometimes outdated information. Some say it's just completely banned. Some say it's legal. Some clinics are offering it without proper oversight, even saying, hey, just source it from this research use only lab. But the confusion is not your fault. The regulatory landscape for peptides is genuinely complicated. And I can tell you, when I first started using peptides, it took me a lot of time to wrap my head around all of the complications because, peptides, they're naturally made in your body. Anything that mimics nature, it's really hard to put a patent on it. And anything that you're using to treat disease or to make medical claims, that needs to go through the FDA process, whether it's natural or whether it's a synthetically made molecule. And so when you look into this, there's unregulated suppliers who, in some cases, they are making very dramatic claims. MOTS-c can reverse your diabetes, or it's an exercise mimetic. And there's nothing that's an exercise mimetic, by the way. You've got to exercise. I know MOTS-c, the levels increase after you've exercised, maybe 400 to 500% just after 20 minutes of exercise. Doesn't necessarily mean it's an exercise mimetic. But the problem is many people, they have these false claims. So natural peptides that occur in your body, they're more like a supplement, but they don't treat disease. They just turn on genes that allow you to perform at your best, but you still have to do the hard work. You got to eat the right foods. You got to exercise. And if you are someone who is out there dispensing peptides, well, make sure you're not making claims because it puts us all in these regulatory bottlenecks. And so the FDA's regulatory stance reflects the clinical profile of a compound. MOTS-c's profile is extraordinary. Frontiers in Physiology in 2025, what they found is MOTS-c at 15 milligrams per kilogram daily in type 2 diabetic models for rats, they produced decreased insulin fasting, improved glucose homeostasis, reversed cardiac hypertrophy, restored mitochondrial respiration, and increased the citrate synthase activity. Now, these are not minor findings. These literally in these models, they reversed cardiac hypertrophy in metabolic models. I mean, it's a major signal. Nature Medicine, what they found in 2025 is MOTS-c reduced pancreatic beta cell senescence across 3 separate mouse models and significantly reduced these SAS markers, which are senescent cell markers. But once again, these are mouse models. Even the mouse model where they took old mice and injected them with MOTS-c for 7 days and they could run just as far as young mice. I mean, there's a lot of things. They had better dexterity in their little paws. I mean, there's a lot of cool things. But with this peptide being in a category 2 and now going to category 1, basically means there's unrestricted compounding for it. It does not mean you can start making claims because it reversed cardiac hypertrophy in mice. Doesn't mean it's going to do the same in humans. What we've seen in humans, especially when we've looked at different populations who live longer, they have more free circulating MOTS-c. And as we age, our MOTS-c circulating levels decline substantially. So MOTS-c, it was in category 2, and so it's nominated for restriction. But now that nomination has been withdrawn, which means that you can go make a statement and tell the FDA what your thoughts are on it. Is it safer to have this being able to get compounded? Because I can tell you, there's millions of people that are accessing these peptides through research use only, and they're not meant to be for human consumption. These are meant to be used as a cheaper version. They're a non-finished peptide product, cheaper version so that they can run through clinical trials. And then once it's ready for human use, now they have to go through the same regulatory pathways, a 503B, CDMO, GMP, all the licenses have to be there for it to go through human clinical trials. So this path, if you have a natural product like BPC or thymosin beta-4, MOTS-c, KPV, melanotan-2, GHK copper, CU as an injectable, these are all being reclassified, which is, in my opinion, is a step in the right direction. But the next step for you is to not take the lazy route and just see what you can find online, but to actually work with clinicians who are properly licensed to write prescriptions through a 503A compounding pharmacy where you can use MOTS-c in individualized patient protocols. And that's the model that we've always operated under at Ageless Future. Now, this is not FDA approved as a drug. There's nothing that we're treating with MOTS-c, but yes, it still can be made available through licensed 503A clinical protocols. There's not much established human clinical dosing. And so this is where our providers are going to help you understand, like maybe we'll use 10 to 25 milligrams subcutaneously, 2 to 3 times a week. Cycling MOTS-c is one of the most important things you can do. And so for those of you who are ready to go deeper and want to learn more about MOTS-c, I do have a whole video on is MOTS-c safe, and I recommend you check that out. And then if you want to go deeper and get MOTS-c from a 503A compounding pharmacy, all you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com, schedule a free intro call, and then you'll meet with one of our providers. Can't wait to see you there.